Welcome back to the B Block, our second section of Cannabis Coast to Coast news. I'm Alaina Pinto. We start with that disturbing experience for an Ohio mother who was driving through a Burger King for a typical lunch order, but she didn't expect the bonus she found in the bottom of the bag. And her TikTok video has been seen now by hundreds of thousands of viewers.
Okay, went to Burger King tonight. Listen, I need you guys to listen. Got my kids some chicken fries. This bag came. If you look down in there, you can see some residue. She got her chicken fries. Chicken fries with the side of... Do you see that? You can't say that on here. Mary Jane from Burger King in Hamilton, Ohio.
That employee was fired on the spot, and Burger King has not issued a formal statement yet. It kind of takes their slogan, "Make it your way," to a whole new other level. With more from the state of Ohio, here's Christina Brisson, now sponsored by Yellow Labs, available in 40 dispensaries in that state.
In Willow Creek, Rory, renowned for birdwatching, embraced nature's elegance. Preparing for his woodland sojourn, he used Grape Focus THC mist from Yellow Labs. Each spritz honed his senses, capturing avian beauty. Immersed in the forest symphony, Rory's lens froze vibrant moments. Emerging at twilight, gratitude filled him for the mist's clarity. Recalling, find Yellow Labs near you. Rory ordered more of his mist from...
Hi, I'm Christina Brisson with Over-the-Top Renovations with your Ohio Weekly Cannabis Report with Cannabis Coast to Coast News. First, I want to talk about different cannabinoids. THCA, Delta-8, and Delta-9 are all ones we're familiar with, but today I recently learned about THCV and THCP. THCV is supposed to be curb appetizing and energy boosting, and THCP is supposed to be 30 times powerful more than Delta-9. We'll see where that goes from here. Also soon to come, DoorDash is going to be delivering hemp-derived CBD and THC products to your door, at least here in Ohio. Don't have a lot of details on it yet, but it's coming soon. We're also opening a new dispensary in Zanesville, Ohio on Maple Avenue. It's True Leaf. Looking forward to that happening as well. And then back to the political world with the Ohio GOP and Mark Huffman, who I've talked about multiple times in the last couple weeks, is actually backing down from some of the restrictions he's requesting on these new rules he wants to have for the state of Ohio. I mean, $242 million in sales last year, which is $24.2 million in taxes to get to Ohio programs this year. I don't think there's a lot to complain about. That's your weekly Ohio Cannabis Report, and I am Christina Brisson with Over-the-Top Renovations in Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
The Ohio Cannabis Report is supported by Yellow Labs and BetterWaysToTHC.com. Search for Yellow Labs near me and find one of 40 dispensaries in Ohio carrying these amazing mists and creams.
At least the Ohio market there has expanded from medical to adult use in the past year and is continuing to grow. But there are still plenty of states trying to figure out how the hemp industry and the medical marijuana programs can survive in the same state. Case in point is Texas, where the Wild Wild West continues to be the mantra in the Lone Star State. Adult use cannabis is still legal in that state, and at least a half dozen cities and towns have overturned their possession laws at the ballot box, despite state leaders like their attorney general who tried to fight the ballot results. If you are in Texas and want to get high, you know that you can get intoxicating hemp products in one of the 7,000 dispensaries that carry them. That hemp product is derived from Delta-8, despite being under the 0.3% limit, where some of the cannabinoids kick in to boost that amount when lit up. So now you have a vibrant multi-million-dollar industry that is unregulated and selling to underage kids. All this is going on while legitimate medical marijuana growers and dispensaries are struggling to stay in business. That group of businesses are abiding by the rules and regulations set up by the state, and now the hot hemp industry is dominating the market. Their governor now wants to ban the entire hemp industry, which would really hurt Texans who are relying on these products for enjoyment and medicinal purposes, not to mention the millions of revenue it is generating. It's a mess, all because of the loophole hole in the Farm Bill of 2018 that basically legalized the cannabis sativa plant, even though it was trying to control it, not recognizing human behavior and the fact that this illegal consumption of this product has been going on for decades. Lawmakers at the federal and state level had no idea that people would figure out ways to use it and get high. Now, Texas has a complete mess on their hands since the whole point of the legalization movement is to control, test, and regulate the product. Undoing this mess will be the next challenge in the fight to end cannabis prohibition. No such issue in Arizona, but even legal adult U.S. states do have their issues. Here's Karen Black.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Do you remember that story about diamond shrooms last summer? Well, let me remind you. Their mushroom-infused edibles made 180 people sick, 13 of whom were in Arizona. 73 people wound up in the hospital, and 3 deaths are associated with the brand. Well, I've got an update to that story, and it's a doozy. The FDA finally got around to testing the polluted products, and there weren't just mushrooms. They contained a whole cocktail of substances, including DPT, which is a synthetic hallucinogen similar to DMT. They also found psilocin and acetylpsilocin, which are illegal in Arizona, and even pregabalin, which is a prescription drug. The diamond shrooms debacle just goes to show how important it is to know what's really in our products. And I've got more bad news. As I've been reporting, Arizona's cannabis market is in a slump, and the latest numbers from the Department of Revenue bear that out. November was a bit of a buzzkill, with adult use sales hitting just $73.1 million, the lowest monthly total of 2024. Medical sales are also on a downward spiral, bottoming out at $16.5 million, the lowest monthly medical total since adult use sales began. Now for some good news. The University of Arizona has officially launched its non-credit cannabis education program, which is in partnership with California's Green Flower, and it's open to the public. U of A now offers 3 6-month online certificate courses covering cannabis business, medical applications, and compliance. This is a significant step forward in addressing the growing needs of the state's 22,000-person-strong cannabis workforce. Meanwhile, Hana Dispensaries in Green Valley is hosting a free coffee and cannabis educational event every Wednesday morning. These interactive sessions offer a casual environment for consumers to learn about cannabis. Lastly, Tempe-based Sonoran Roots has expanded its presence in Arizona. The company celebrated the grand opening of its 5th Ponderosa dispensary on Saturday, this one in Tucson. That's all for this week's Arizona Report. I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Here are a few state headlines this week. In Arkansas, after that state's reform initiative did not pass at the ballot box, the governor there, Republican Sarah Huckabee Sanders, announced her State of the State address that she plans to use tax revenue driven by that state's fledgling medical program to fund free meals in Arkansas schools. Next up, let's check in with Tina Tasaka in Nevada and with the tribal nations.
I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies, and this is the Nevada and Tribal Nations Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. As I report on the Las Vegas consumption lounges often, since, after all, we are the entertainment capital of the world, well, now all the eyes are on San Diego, National City, and the first cannabis consumption lounge set to open early February. This is a joint venture between Alex Ayan and the Sequan Tribal Nation, and the property is on sovereign land. Sessions by the Bay, Lounge, and Dispensary will not only offer the classics in pre-rolls and canna mocktails, they are serving up gourmet food for those cravings. More to follow after the grand launch, and job openings are posted. Dina Titus prioritizes cannabis banking, veterans, and research in Congress. As the new co-chair of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, Representative Dina Titus, Democrat Nevada, is laser focused on advancing federal cannabis reforms. Her top priorities for the 119th Congress include passing the Safer Banking Act, which would allow financial institutions to serve cannabis businesses, improving veterans' access to medical marijuana through the Veterans Equal Access Act, and enabling universities to conduct cannabis research under the Higher Education Marijuana Research Act. Titus emphasized the need for federal action to catch up with the state-level progress, citing Nevada's pioneering cannabis laws. Despite bipartisan support from lawmakers like Representatives Dave Joyce, Republican, Ohio, and Brian Mast, Republican, Florida, federal cannabis reforms face challenges in the Republican-controlled Congress. Titus remains determined, suggesting Congress may step in if federal rescheduling efforts falter. These points came from an article, Chris Roberts, MJ Biz Daily. The number of cultivation licenses decreased by 2 in December 2024 compared to November. In addition, the number of productions decreased by 1. One additional dispensary was added, which was the Rise dispensary in Carson City. The cultivations are taking the brunt of an impact of lower sales, heavy regulations, and overwhelming cultivation taxes, forcing many to walk from their licenses. That's it for the Nevada highlights and tribal nations. I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies and Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
There is still a lot going on in California now that those devastating wildfires are getting controlled and people have started the process of cleaning up before they can rebuild. This week, our California correspondent Dina Naguib talked with Jackie Bryant from San Diego. Jackie has earned a great reputation in the industry with her writing skills and her development of the Cannabis newsletter, now a strategist with San Diego Magazine. And Dina talked with Jackie one-on-one.
I'm Dina Naguib, Principal Consultant of Grass Goddess Consulting and California correspondent for the weekly news show, Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This is a special one-on-one interview, and I'm so happy to welcome Jackie Bryant, who is a friend of mine and also an amazing cannabis journalist who you probably know. She wrote the article in the New York Times on Thanksgiving a couple years ago. She's also here living in San Diego, a Southern California resident. She was the former managing editor of San Diego Magazine and now is a content strategist for them. She's on numerous podcasts, including Puff Puff Press, and she has her newsletter, Cannabis, which I'm a big fan of. I've been reading it for a number of years, and I'd love to start off, just talking about your last article that you sent out, Jackie. Well, first of all, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Thank you. I want to make a couple of notes. I'm also a former and hopefully future and sometimes pro-cannabis media commentator. I have been in the past, not for a couple of years now, but it's really good to be back. And I believe you also are a cannabis contributor, Dina. Don't forget that. So it's really good to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I am so honored that you sometimes run some of the stuff that I write. So I appreciate that. I really appreciated over the weekend. We have all of these fires that are going on just north of us up in the Los Angeles area. And I really appreciated what you sent out, in your Cannabis newsletter. Do you want to talk a little bit about it, what you wrote and why?
Yeah, so my day job, I work at San Diego Magazine, and we mobilized at the magazine pretty quickly to get a list of resources for people either in the LA fires who need immediate on the ground help, or people in San Diego who want to help, seeing as, we're just a couple of 100 miles down the road. We consider ourselves, we're one mega region, we're neighbors, they're in our backyard, et cetera, et cetera. We also face exactly the same climate and fire threats that they do. So it hits close to home. We're not immune to these threats either, and we know that. So we mobilized at the magazine, and I always give the magazine its space to do its own work. I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but by the end of the week, after we had realized the full scale of these fires and how many hundreds of thousands of people had been displaced and were still under, I think it was like 180,000 people were still under evacuation orders by Saturday morning. I just woke up Saturday morning and realized that among the cannabis industry, I hadn't really seen too much communication, and I hadn't seen too much media going out about resources and where to help other than posts on social media, which are, of course, helpful, but it's hard to vet that. And I even noticed, people in the cannabis industry who had lost their homes posting information about FEMA and applying for FEMA assistance and saying that they hadn't known anything. And then it just kind of clicked for me. I realized that most like so much of the cannabis industry is in LA right now. They're impacted, and cannabis media people as well. They're not going to be compiling resources and sending them out. And since I'm in the area, it feels close to home, and I have the ability, I realize like no one's waiting to hear from the weed lady on a list of resources, but just in case they are, maybe this is the one email they get that's, delivering stuff to them. So I just whipped it up and I got a press release from FEMA, since, I am a member of the press, about how to make a claim and to do that immediately. And, I copied that in there. And if, the cannabis community also isn't always a community that taps into mainstream media. And so they may not be getting some of these communications directly. And I figured, what, why not? So let's send it out. And at the very least, people will know that they have this information in their inbox if they need to search for it.
The entirety of that interview is available on our PCM TV app and on the homepage of procannabismedia.com. In Colorado, the amount of sales of cannabis has turned into quite a bit of tax money for one of the oldest legal adult use states. In 2024 alone, Colorado collected $255 million off the sales of cannabis, just under $2 billion total in tax money since they went legal in 2014. Here's Xavier Jaillet in Colorado.
I'm Xavier Jaillet, chairman of the Colorado chapter of the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce and a non-legal consultant with the McDonald Hopkins law firm. Here's what's going on in Colorado cannabis this week. The state, the Colorado Department of Revenue specifically, reported that the state made nearly $20 million in tax revenue from cannabis sales in December, bringing the total for 2024 up to $255 million. This increases the lifetime total of tax revenue generated from the program from 2014, when adult use sales started, through today to $2 billion, $873 million. Now, this is a remarkable feat and indication to other states that, yes, they should indeed pass some form of adult use legislation to generate tax revenue for the state, particularly in this day and age when states need all the help they can get developing infrastructure, helping with schooling and education, and then finally giving back to the cannabis community by providing social equity programs and grants to the less fortunate that do want to enter the space. I'm looking forward to seeing the continued revenue for Colorado from cannabis sales in 2025, and I think it's an indicator to other states that, now is the time. Join in instead of missing out on this revenue, particularly with states that are bordered by adult use cannabis jurisdictions that are losing valuable tax revenue as their residents and citizens travel across state borders to acquire their cannabis. That's it for this week. I'm Xavier Jaillet, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
That'll do it for the B block of this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast News. We have more, including our new correspondent in Illinois, the Clone Guy, plus an update on the race to become the 25th adult use state in America. Cannabis Coast to Coast News continues after this break.
It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Now let me tell you my cannabis story. You know, I've had 4 major surgeries in the past 23 years and suffer from osteoarthritis with a variety of metal parts in my body and one on deck. Now, thanks to those chronic pain issues, I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore, so I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now, if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weegits filtration system. What? The Weegits.com, Weegits, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product that cools the smoke from everyone's favorite flower. The guy that started this was a pretty good medical device manufacturer, and he created this maze pipe that cools the smoking process from 1300 degrees Fahrenheit upon inflammation down to just 90 degrees when it reaches your mouth. That's right, 1300 down to 90. That's why this maze pipe is amazing. Now, add in the code of PCM TV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weegits.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind.